You are listening to the Next Play Podcast, the playbook for high-performing leaders who want to exceed their full potential. From walking on the Ole Miss football team at 5'7", 150 pounds and earning a full D1 scholarship, to coaching thousands around the world and working with massive organizations like IBM. I've learned countless lessons that I'll be sharing right here with you. Join me as I interview some of the most successful people so you too can learn how to focus on always moving forward by deciding, planning, and executing on the next play relentlessly. All right, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning, and it is yours truly coming to you live from beautiful and sunny Las Vegas, Nevada. But today we've got a really good topic and one that I love to talk about because this was kind of how I started in this industry. So it's how to overcome adversity. And we do have one on how to overcome obstacles. It's a little outdated, so it needed to be updated anyways. But just the fact we didn't have this, I was like, how do we not have this? And a lot of them come to thought just really from the week, right? We're always just trying to get better every single week, and we have scenarios every single week, whether it's a leadership scenario, a team member scenario, a client scenario, an ex-client scenario, or just a personal one, right? And just kind of always trying to get better. And so we realized that there was a lot of adversity this past week, and this month. And when I look back to my days at Ole Miss, when I looked back to some of the most successful people who've overcome the odds, right? All of them dealt with massive amounts of adversity, and all of them handled it a little bit differently. But what was interesting is that it was all the same, right? Even though it was handled a little bit differently, it all came back to the same principles. And that's what was really fascinating is if you look at some of the most successful people, whether it's the guy who broke the 4-minute mile, Warren Buffett, Michael Jordan, right? And you look at, Michael Jordan didn't even make his high school basketball team his first year, right? So when you look at some of the adversity that they had to face and how they overcame it, it's really powerful. So today we're going to be talking about how to overcome adversity. We're going to talk about the different types of adversity, how we react to those different types, and then we have the Relentless Adversity framework that we're going to break down so that every time you face a very challenging adversity in your life, you have a step-by-step process that you can use to overcome it. It's the same thing we're sharing with our clients. It's the same thing that I use. And if you look at some of the most successful people, they might not necessarily have this written out, but if you look at their process, it's very similar in how they do it. So that is what we are going to break down today. So let's jump right into it. So there's two types of adversity. How many types? Yes, 2 types. There's 2 types of adversity. Types you can control and types you can't control, right? So there's types of adversity you just can't control. So that's like death or COVID happening or your size, right? 5'7", 150 pounds trying to play Division I college football. There's some things in life, adversities, you cannot control. And for you, that could be many different things. Maybe you're normally, I know there's a group of people, you're normally in person, but you're over the phone. Or, there's so many different adversities that happen to us that are out of our control. So that's adversity we can't control. And then there's adversity we can control. And this usually comes from making a bad decision, a choice, or action that led to this adversity, that set us up in this position to have to face this specific adversity. Now, regardless, no matter what you are facing, you're always in control, right? We talked about this. You always have to take ownership. You always have to be in control. And that's just the way it goes. So just understanding there's 2 types of adversity. Adversity you can control and adversity you can't control. It doesn't matter what you're facing, but just having the concept and understanding, okay, this is something that was my control, I caused this, versus, hey, this is something that happened for me, not to me, right? So it's just really important to understand how it works. All right, number 2, we're going to break down the foundation and building the actual foundation, okay? So, if you want to be able to overcome adversity, you have to have the right mindset. Now, I highly suggest seeing the Relentless Mindset replay or the course to go through that. But it's all about things in your life happening for you, not to you, right? Every adversity that you face is an opportunity to grow. You wouldn't be on this right now. You wouldn't be moving forward at whatever it is that you're doing if you didn't grow to a specific point to be able to do that, right? To be able to be here, to be able to have the amount of success that you've had to this point, to have achieved what you've achieved to this point, right? That's all come from growth. It's all come from adversity. And sometimes we forget that. But it's pretty fascinating when you think back that everything you've achieved to this point is all because of adversity that you've overcome, right? It's all because of adversity you overcome. Growth is mandatory to get to the next level, and so is adversity. And so we must build the foundation, which is your mindset. And something I want to really, really stress, and I've learned a lot about this and watching some of the mentors that I've had and been very blessed to have in my life, and they made this very clear to me, and it was very challenging for me to get this. And it's that challenges and adversity never go away. Challenges and adversity never will go away. And in fact, they actually get bigger. They actually get bigger as you have more success. You have small problems with limited consequences. Now you have large problems with enormous consequences. And it's really interesting. It never goes away. We're like, I just don't want to deal with any more challenges. I don't want to deal with any more adversity. I know this. I have people at work with me that are... But the problem is that they escape this. They run away from it. And then they have to deal with it in the next thing that they do, and the next thing, and the next thing. And they're always running away from dealing with it, right? So challenges never go away. Adversity never goes away, right? So all we can do is build the foundation. That's the mindset of saying this is happening for me, not to me, and being thankful. Richie, you're out of your damn mind. And maybe I am. But there's some things, and don't get me wrong, there's some things that happen, and I'm like, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Why? This is going to take me months to deal with. Months. And it's frustrating, right? And I'm not immediately like, oh, thank you for this great adversity. No. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. But then I think back, right? I got to be thankful this is happening. The only reason I'm here in this position to begin with is because of all the adversity I've overcome in the past, and same for you. The only reason you are where you are to begin with is because of all the adversity you've dealt with in the past, so you have to be thankful. What's the opportunity for you? You get smacked in the face. The question is, what's the opportunity for you? What's the opportunity for you? The next thing is you got to unlock the handcuffs. You have to unlock the handcuffs. Critical, right? There's no way around. You have to unlock the handcuffs. The first step, right, is always to take ownership and responsibility. The first step is always to take ownership and responsibility. This is mandatory. No way around it. And we've talked about this many different times. There is no way around it. The first step is to take ownership and responsibility of everything and accept it. This has happened to you, but Richie, there was a death. I can't control it. I get it. I understand, right? But accepting it and then deciding that every decision, choice, and action that you take from here on out to deal with this adversity, to deal with this challenge, is on you. It's 100% on you. It's ownership. I get it. Not always your control. Whether it's in your control or not your control, it doesn't matter. That's why I brought this up. Because then people say, oh, it's not my control. I didn't control it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Right? This is how you take control of everything, by taking ownership. Without taking ownership, you have no control over the situation, and you leave the results to somebody else, to another person, to another thing, another place, something, somebody else. Okay? Right during the pandemic, I made a bad decision. I partnered with some people I shouldn't have, right? And during the pandemic, when things got hard, they literally abandoned and left with nothing. Stole a bunch of stuff, right? And I had a choice. I could crumble and say, hey, this isn't for me. I made too many bad decisions. It's not my fault. It's their fault because they left. Or I could say, you know what? It's on me. I made a bad decision by choosing them, and I got to deal with this. And I got to make it better. And what I found is it was the greatest opportunity in my life to rebuild something that's 10 times more powerful than it ever was before. And it was the best thing. And I to this day, I need to thank them for doing that, right? So you have to take ownership. All right, moving right along, and this is the last thing before we get into the framework here, is you have to have faith and believe. Now, not so much on a religious level, whether you're religious or not. That's totally up to you. That's not what this is about. What I mean is have faith and believe, whether it's a higher power, a religion, whatever. But you have to believe. You have to believe, right? And we did a whole live and course on how to believe in yourself. It's one of the most challenging things to do is to have faith. And I heard this, I think it was, what's his name? It was Jim Carrey. And he says, not hope, but faith, right? We don't want to hope, we want to create, right? We never want to hope, we want to create. But I was really thinking hard about this when I was putting this together, and you truly have to have faith, right? Like, things have to happen in your favor. It just has to happen. And you find that the people that are always working and always grinding and always moving forward, they always end up, and you could say the word luck, preparedness meets opportunity, it always works out. And it's just crazy how that happens. If someone else can do it, so can you. If someone else can overcome cancer, so can you. If someone else can overcome, having to deal with something at work, so can you. If someone else can handle your whole team being dismantled, so can you, right? Does it suck? Absolutely. Do you have to have faith? 100%, right? When your desire to overcome, listen to me closely on this one. When your desire to overcome becomes greater than your fear of handling it, you'll just overcome adversity naturally. It's pretty powerful, right? When your desire to overcome when your desire to overcome becomes greater than your fear, you'll just overcome adversity naturally. That's desire. That's desire. So let's talk about the Relentless Adversity framework, right? We always want to systemize everything, make it simple. And that's exactly what we did. The Relentless Adversity framework has been very powerful. And I just love watching people implement, use, and achieve, right? And it's just really powerful. So let's break it down. The first thing is you have to create challenge clarity. Yeah, you have to what? Create challenge clarity, okay? And that's just diagnosing and deciding what exactly is the problem that you're facing, what exactly are you worried about, and to write it down, right? Because sometimes you'll have a challenge, like let's say, for example, it's just something we all faced, which was COVID, right? What exactly is the problem? Well, I can't be in person anymore. I have to do this. We can't practice anymore. I have to do it on my own. We can't do whatever I have to shut down this because it's mandated, right? Whatever the challenge is, what exactly is the problem and what exactly are you worried about, right? And you have to write it down because a lot of times it's 4 or 5 problems, not one. And then that's when it gets super overwhelming, right? So if it's more than one, then you have to write them out. Okay, it's so critical. This step is the most critical. We do this all the time, right? With our challenges and writing things out. It changes the game when it's on paper, especially when it comes to frustration, stress, overwhelm, right? So we have to create challenge clarity by writing out the problems. And if there's more problems, writing them out separately, all right? Number 2, you have to know the worst case scenario. This is something like we think about sometimes, but this to me was like the biggest game changer of all of them because I would do this sometimes, but not all the times. And maybe you do this sometimes, but not all the time. But this gives you the most amount of relief. It really does. By figuring out the worst case scenario and then resolving to pretending in your mind that happened, this will immediately help you relax and resolve in your mind, right? It relaxes stress, it relaxes overwhelm. And so, when I see things happening like, oh no, we're going to have to make a whole shift in the way we do things because we're going to lose a person or, something like that happens. It's like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? I'm going to resolve that already happened. And then we'll discuss next steps, right? But that immediately is like, okay, it's fine. So for you, as you think about the challenges that you're facing, what's the worst case scenario? Literally, what is the worst case scenario? And resolve that it happened in your mind. Okay, it happened. Now what? Now what? Really? Now what? And watch how you just like, it might take a day. What I found is it takes a day or two because I'll sleep on it, I'll wake up, I'll still be frustrated, I'll sleep on it, I'll wake up, and I'll be like, you know what? It doesn't even matter anymore. Like, I've moved on from that. And maybe that's what you need to do, right? Maybe you have to just sleep on it. Worst case, you move on from it. And it's like, it literally is the most liberating, relaxing relief when you do that. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, determine your options. Okay? Determine your options. This was really interesting. I was doing a lot of research on this. And, everyone talks a lot about freedom, right? And they think it ties back to time and money, which it does. But what was really fascinating is to create freedom ties a lot to the skills that you have obtained in your life. And you're only as free as the options that you have. And you only have options based on the skills that you have developed. This is really fascinating, right? The more skills you've developed, the more freedom you have, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, if I get really educated, if I read a lot of books, I'll be super successful. I'll have freedom. I'll get to that point. And the answer to that is hell no, right? Education does not lead to freedom. It just doesn't. Well, no, excuse me. It can lead to freedom, but it doesn't equal freedom. What equals freedom is taking education and then creating the skills and then the habits to execute on those skills, right? And once you have a specific amount of skills that pertain to whatever it is that you're doing, that's when you can create freedom. Because why? Because you have more options. Really, really interesting and really powerful when we look at skill development. When people are like, "Oh, well, I don't have time to build that skill, and I don't have time for that, and I'll just read." And yeah, but that doesn't do shit, right? What are you taking with that education? What are you taking with that book? And then how are you developing that skill, right? Because that's part of the Relentless Warrior system, which is what all of this breaks down into, right? So you only have options from past adversity and skills that you've developed. The only options you have to this point are the skills you've developed from your past adversities, right? Really interesting, really powerful. So number 3 is you have to determine your options, and your options are predicated on your skills, right? So you're here, you're watching this because you want to develop skills. You want to get better. And so that's obviously really, really powerful, and you're going to have more options than most. But just understanding that concept should say to you, I need to be in skill development all the time, right? That's going to give you more options. Number 4, you got to create your roadmap. You got to create your roadmap. And this is very simply the Relentless Warrior system. That's all it is. It's the Relentless Warrior system. Solidify your vision, right? Understanding your motivation, solidify your vision. Skill development, habit formation, interference removal, and accountability, right? That's your roadmap. You want to overcome adversity, you got to handle those first 3 things first, and then create your roadmap, which is understanding and solidifying your motivation, your vision, skill development, habit formation, and removal, and breaking bad habits, forming new habits, removing interference, and accountability, right? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because we've spent so much time on that, but that's the roadmap. That's your roadmap, right? And then it goes on and on and on. You're constantly developing skills. You're constantly breaking bad habits. You're constantly forming new habits, solidifying your vision, staying motivated, being held accountable, and doing it over and over and over again. What does that do? It gives you more options. What do those options give you? Freedom, right? So really, really powerful stuff here. And the last step is, once you have your roadmap, of course, don't take no for an answer. Don't take no for an answer ever. Ever take no for an answer. Right? Make a choice and act. Don't worry about what happened, why it happened, who's responsible, because it's always you. Think only about the question, what do I do now? What's the first step you can take? We're not going to take no for we're not taking no for an answer here. Our answer is yes, right? We're going to handle this adversity. We're going to get through this adversity. Stop worrying about all the other stuff that you can't control and start worrying about the stuff that you can control, which is every decision, choice, and action that you take and following this process. What's the first step for you? Very simply, what is the first step for you? So I have a challenge, of course, right? Very simply. We've broken down the 5 steps. I'll quickly break them down one more time so you have the challenge in front of you. Number 1, create challenge clarity. Write down the challenges. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to write them down. If you don't, they're going to be like all jingled in your hair. Remember that the picture and it looked like this? Right? Write down the challenges. You have to, right? Next thing is you got to write down the worst case scenario for each challenge. What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst that could happen? Really? You got to know. A lot of times it's not as bad as you think, but ultimately understanding the worst case scenario is going to help you to chill. It's going to help you to relax, right? Number 3, determine your options. What are your options? Option 1, option 2, option 3. What are they? What do they look like? What can you do? Number 4, decide and create your roadmap, right? Decide and create your roadmap. Your roadmap is the Relentless Warrior system. It's everywhere. It's all over the site. You get it everywhere, right? It's your motivation, your vision, skill development, habit formation, interference removal, and accountability, right? So to determine what's your roadmap to get through the adversity. And number 5, Never take no for an answer because you are relentless. You're relentless. You wouldn't be here if you weren't relentless. Relentless warriors do not take no for an answer. So you don't, right? So that is my challenge for you this week, and it is exactly on the minute, right? It is exactly on the minute. So what are you going to do? Are you going to have adversity to face this week? Hell yes. Is it going to be challenging? Hell yes. Are you going to be frustrated? Absolutely. Like, we always want to go into the week positive and excited and great things are going to happen. Yes. But also understand that shit is going to not go your way. Not everything is going to be great. You're going to have a lot of adversity, a lot of annoyance, a lot of different things that are going to pop up, right? How you handle them is what matters. Decisions, choices, and actions that you take. And it starts with ownership. With what? It starts with ownership. All right? So that is my challenge for you this week. Of course, as always, got to take relentless action and do it today, right? Grab a sheet of paper today and do it today. All right? And I will see all of you next week. Some of you are going to be getting an email from me about the group calls. It's going to either be this week or yours will be next week. We had to split them up because of the group sizes, and we didn't want too many people in the group. So it's a little bit of a challenge, but we think we got it figured out. We have everybody in groups now. So you're going to be getting an email with your times, and hopefully they work. That was another challenge. But we'll continue to solidify it. These things take a little bit of time to implement. It's frustrating, lots of adversity, but we will get through it. So have a great week, and I will see all of you next Monday morning. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Play podcast. If you liked the show, make sure to leave us a review. For more resources, visit relentlessuniversity.com or download the free Relentless University app. And if you're interested in having me speak at your next event, visit relentlessrichie.com. Until next time.